This is the BentoComics SketchJam. Hello and welcome. My name is Dee Dupuis, and we've got a couple of artists around the table today and a special guest star. What you're seeing up on the screen is Myung Kim, Simon Sues, doing a little inking this morning. Today we're going to be talking about websites for artists. In particular, the BentoComics website and its current fate. We've already started a redesign on it, what we're doing to sort of address that. And we have a special guest star. We're going to end up with Sarah and Myung's special treat for Sarah. So, hello and welcome.
No.
So let's have a whip round today and introduce ourselves. Myung Kim, tell us who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Hello, I am Myung, and I'm an animator slash webcomic artist. So I have a webcomic called Simon Sues that I'm currently working on, and it's been ongoing for the past like 2.5 years, 3 years, I think. So, that's me.
Yeah, that's not you on the screen. That's actually Simon's sister.
Yeah. This is not. This is not.
Okay, because that doesn't look like any one of us. That person is actually.
It could be.
What was her name?
Yeah.
What was her name again?
June.
June, of course, June. Yeah.
Crazy
okay.
face.
Crazy June. Okay. Also joining us today is Dan Hess. Dan, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, I'm Dan Hess. By day, I am a internet application developer, and by night, or at least evening, I draw comics, specifically a comic called Weesh, which is available at weeshcomic.com.
And fight crime.
No.
Yes.
Dan, you don't
Overnight, I go out, I dress in a cowl and a cape, and I fight crime.
fight crime with your trusty sidekick, Grayson. Actually, the cat's name is Grayson.
Oh, really?
My cat's name is Grayson.
The boy wonder.
That's so funny. Do you guys actually hear about... Oh, sorry. There's a guy in California who dresses up like It the Clown, like at night, and just like stands near signs to like scare people. That guy's gonna get shot.
Yeah.
I've seen videos of that guy, and it's not funny.
He's gonna either get shot or stabbed. So
funny.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So the other voice that you're hearing is Sarah. Now, Sarah is a special guest star because she is not normally a part of our BentoComics meetings because she is not an artist.
Artists? What? Programmers are artists, and
She has
things.
better things to do.
We make the software that makes your art possible.
Yes, okay.
And stuff. Like what you are seeing on the screen is because programmers.
Okay, so Sarah and I have had this discussion before about what constitutes art. Sarah feels strongly that programming is art.
Well, it is art in its own way.
It's true.
But there is a beauty to it, I'll tell you that much.
I would agree with Sarah.
I think all of us dabble a little bit in programming, but few of us have made it our actual profession. I don't know. Dan, you're kind of like a... you kind of straddle the line there between art and programming. Yeah. But I think Sarah would be a more balanced individual if she had more art. But that's why she has us.
I guess so. Sarah was we were just talking about that earlier about not having a lot of creative people and influence in her day-to-day.
See, I think that's a balance, right? Yeah, like, so I guess should I just introduce myself and I could describe you why I don't have that much creative input in my life? All right, let's introduce, fuck this, because I just forgot to start the timer and we're way off our agenda. I tried. All right, I'm starting the timer. Sarah, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do. Okay, so my name is Sarah Chung. My background's in computer science, but right now I work for a web marketing department for a major university in Boston that will remain unnamed. Nice. I guess we do creative stuff, like we send out e-blasts asking you to pay money for our courses to give you master's degrees. So creative. But it's nice. Yeah, I guess it's like online learning. Is it? Is it like online learning? Are you structuring courses for online learning and stuff like that?
we have a distance ed department. Like I'm part of the pure marketing department, so my job is to market all the course offerings that the college offers.
Hmm.
So, but yep, I send out emails to thousands of people. I
You're a
fix
spam.
websites. I do spam. Well, not spam.
University spammer.
Some people want these emails. They want to learn and get master's degrees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so and also on the side, I just do IT consulting because that kind of pays the bills. And I'm looking into perhaps going back to graduate school for urban and regional planning because I think it's a really good meld between sort of the computational and research, but also like the design aspect. So I'm hoping to be around more creative people soon. But
Yeah, I
right
think
now,
urban and regional planning definitely has a creative component.
yeah. So I think that will be really awesome. So.
I'm not going to bring up your comments about graduate school for that you gave us shortly after you finished your last degree.
That was the wrong program. Grad school isn't bad. It's just that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah collects
there's
degrees like
plenty
other
of people out there that have careers in just going to school, so you're not alone.
I will not be one of those people, but well, anyway, whatever. Yes.
Sarah,
Any of you thinking about graduate school out there, you shouldn't go to graduate school to figure out what you want to do. You should know what you want to do before you go. That's all I'll say.
that is damn good
Amen.
advice.
Amen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amen on that, because nobody is made of money, particularly if you are a programmer or an artist. There's many universities that would love to take your money to give you a master's degree that you don't really want.
It's so true. It's
your last one helped you figure out what you did want, though, right? So that was useful.
Yeah, in that way. I'm sure it'll come in handy someday, but
Yeah.
it was not the right program. That's okay.
That's also my philosophy about algebra. I'm sure I'll use that someday.
I'm sure you use. No.
No.
Figure out your proportions on your squares that you draw
Without
to bound things. I don't know.
Yeah, that could work. So as I say, Sarah is joining us, and it's propitious today because we're going to be talking about our website. I will just say that my name is Dee Dupuis, and I do a comic called Heartless that you can't see because I've been redesigning it for the past million years. And I put very few things up online, but it's coming.
Okay.
During the day, I take care of the websites of a couple of big institutes at a major university here. So I do scientific writing and also web stuff. We're going to talk about our dearly beloved
website.
May
it rest in peace.
BentoComics.com.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. So
it will return in Bento Comics.
It will rise again.
It will rise again.
Electric Boogaloo.
Son of Bento Comics. BentoComics.com came about. We joke, but it's sad. But we had a couple of days to get over this, right?
Oh, can I give a kind of the birth, the conception of Bento Comics?
Oh, please do. I was just going to mention before you start that we spent our last Bento Comics meeting, which we usually try to get together on Friday night/Saturday. Dan desperately scrabbling to get the files off the server, which had gone down again. We spent our entire meeting
again.
Yeah. So it's
down again.
And it's down again. And BentoComics.com is not around. And it's just we've had it with this service provider who, we've had trouble with over this started back in 2008. So Myung, please give us the birth of the idea of.
So the earliest mention mankind has heard of Bento Comics was was at an anime convention that we first met at in Boston. And we saw in the artist alley a group of artists from the local art school. Oh no, actually they were from SVA, I think, but they had put together this anthology, and I think the name of it was like Musa Jump or something.
Oh yeah. Wow. Okay.
And so we at the time were all part of this online entity called Wirepop, but we were not print we didn't have a print component. We were all digital, and we all had our own titles, but nobody had made yet like enough material to put together one volume of work. So I so we looked at their anthology and thought it would be a good way to get a good sample of different artists who had different styles and who might not have enough work on their own, but together could form like something greater than the sum of its parts. And so that then we were like, well, where can we house all of these orphaned works, or these works that might not necessarily be like have a stable home, or even like a relevant home. So we were like, well, let's make a site first for the digital component, and then we were going to have a way to put them all into a print volume and have a service that people could create the print and order it, but create it in such a way that they could mix and match stories on the fly.
Yeah, no problem. This will only take a week. It'll only take a weekend to do this.
Yeah. So that was the ideal. That was the dream. That was the dream.
Yeah, that was a dream. And you know,
it was a lovely dream.
It was a lovely dream, and it was a dream that worked for the more, and it wasn't easy, but it worked. So I will just say, and we should talk about this at some point. This is why going to cons is good. Because, you know, just getting yourself immersed in that environment, you just, you know, the ideas are thick and fast. And, you know, decompressing in the attic in Boston after that con, we just, you know, every time we did it, we were just full of, you know, ideas and plans and everything else. And that's how it started. So we're like, well, this is a fantastic idea. And then we came up with the idea of print on demand. And yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
That was our like tagline. And we gathering together all these little orphan stories that every artist has. You know, you work on a little demo, you do a little 6-pager that you're not sure what to do with, but you had an idea and you kind of jotted it down, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, they end up scattered around. They tend not to see the light of day. And, you know, unless you've just, you know, many people don't have a vehicle for these things.
Right.
So they needed a home. That's what we thought. So the problem was how to do this. Well, we had some experience in web design. So we had that down pat. And we discovered that we had done a lot of our printing through Lulu. Lulu.com is a print-on-demand site that takes files at the last minute and will ship it to you overnight. So they're, of course, a fan favorite for producing comics for your convention needs. Because these things get done at the last minute.
For the procrastinating artist.
For the procrastinating artist, which is probably 99% of us. So they had released a public API, right? So, and we were like, wow, this is the hook that we need to be able to organize and print these comics out. So, Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about the design parameters when we were first formulating BentoComics?
Design parameters?
Yeah, so the
define design parameters.
I used a big word. Dan, you make website. Okay.
Yeah,
How
I
you
just
make?
Cobbled it together with my limited PhD
How you make
knowledge.
website?
Is that what they tell you at work? They're like, D, make website. You make website.
Website.
Make work.
Fix bug.
Make work. Give us internet.
Some days it's like that. It feels like it, especially when we're doing testing. QA. It's like,
Yeah, QA is hard, especially on so many browsers. It's like,
Yeah, and you work at the school, so that you don't have to do the kind of things that the hoops that I have to jump through. I have to come up with wireframes and, you know, all this bullshit, you know, proof of concept. Dan just stuff.
I have plenty of that too, because anytime I design something new that one of our clients is asking for, I have to put together a wireframe mock-up or whatever of how it's going to function and sort of explain it stuff. And inevitably, there's always changes. My favorite is when I present something to them and they say, "Oh, it's great, it's wonderful," and then like 3 days later, "Oh, we got to change everything because we needed to add this functionality." It's like, great, that's wonderful. I already just started working on this. Now I got to change it all.
Dan and I, back in our freelance days, so there was a point at which we were both freelancing, and we had quite a little lucrative design business going for websites. We did a few for MIT and some bigger private companies. And we tended to work well together because Dan was somewhat insulated from the client. So I would go to the committee meetings, yes, and I was our public face, and I would come up with, I would gather the user input, and then I would streamline that into a way that Dan, with his half programming brain, sort of liked, and feed it to him, and he would come up with stuff, and I would then present it to them. It seemed to work very well.
Right.
Hey,
So
that's
then,
kind of what I'm doing it
right.
too.
Why'd
so
you stop
yeah,
that?
Why did we stop that? I moved.
you moved to Singapore.
I moved to
Yeah, I guess
Singapore. And then Dan decided that he was tired of freelances because he was fucking poor, and so he went and got a job.
So how did you apply this to BentoComics?
I'm just going to sum this up for Dan because he's so articulate. Okay. So what we need.
I don't know
was,
what you're expecting when you say design parameters.
All
I put
right.
together a site where people were. Well, I put together a site so that creators could upload a PDF. The PDF is parsed out into individual images and stored in a place where it could be used later to make a book. And then I created a secondary system that users could come in, register, log in, collect the stories that they like, and then eventually print out a book using Lulu's API, which lasted, 2 years?
well done.
I
Before
know.
they changed it all?
Dan used his words. Good, Dan. And so we did a lot of this up in the attic. So we got a good start on it. And then, of course, our minds naturally drifted in Sarah's direction, right? Because Sarah is a programmer. And unlike us, which we tried to learn how to do these things, we just get on the internet and ask Google how to do something. Sarah actually knew how to program things. So she was immediately roped into, we were like, Sarah, we will give you pizza if you help us. So programming the API was quite tricky. We had a dual purpose for this site. We wanted to be able to display these little short stories online. You had to be able to search them by author, by subject matter. We designed a system by which they were categorized as to genre, age level, age appropriateness, et cetera, et cetera. So you could mix and match that.
Right.
But
Plus,
then
we had
also,
a user database where people could they had a blog, and then they could make comments, and
yes,
every user could upload their own story as well.
Right. So this was 2009. Let me just give you an idea. So this is like ancient history, yeah.
That's a long time ago.
So we were venturing into the social sort of aspects of this sort of thing. So we tried a forum, we tried a blog, we allowed comments on the things, and had various success with this. But it was all needed to be programmed. But the main thing was to be able to allow users to register and create their own books by mixing and matching the stories on the site, which were then compiled into a PDF using Image Magic.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Magic was
I still work with Image Magic to this day. So,
Do you?
yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes
I actually know it a little bit better now.
Oh,
but,
Yeah.
Oh boy.
still not great.
What we went through with that. And, it was compounded by the fact that, let me just say this, it was compounded by the fact that a lot of us at that time, particularly, were very influenced by manga. So we were doing these black and white comics that were using the digital tones,
yeah.
right, which are extremely sensitive to resizing, right? So if you resize it by a pixel, you have fucked up your picture, okay?
I like Moray a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
There's
God.
so much Moray. I remember it was really hot, really bad.
Moray became a dirty word.
Right.
We used to call each other Moray if you screwed up or whatever. It's like, you Moray.
And the algorithms on Image Magic weren't very extensive, so they didn't have different ways to sharpen or to resize the black and white images.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Actually, I did want to add. I don't know if people know what Image Magic actually is. It's sort of a free open source library that it comes on that you can install on your web server to do things for you. And because it was free, then it wasn't that great, I guess. But that's sort of the budget we had to start with. And
Free? What's our budget?
Yeah.
Our budget.
So that's why we chose this library.
Well, it's funny. Go ahead.
It is pretty powerful. It's just unfortunately all the material and all the support is written by engineers.
Yeah.
And here we are with our artist brains and programmer brains trying to decipher what these egghead engineers would put together. Like, we just want to shrink something so that it looks nice. How do we do that?
There's no toggle for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, if you work for the university, and many of us have, or at one point or another, or me, my whole career, you get used to using open source software. And you have to. Sometimes you don't have any choice. But man, if we had some money, we should buy. If you are developing a website and you have some money, go ahead on and spend the money on something that's going to support.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you can either spend it on that, or you can spend it on therapy, or in our case, more pizza to feed Sarah so she'll keep working. Keep working.
I feel like you made a pretty good fondue. Your fondue was really excellent. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember those days. That was fun.
Well, there's something about, I had an attic where we used to live up in Boston, Somerville in Boston, and it was a crucible of creativity. So over the years, we would go up there and we would get shit done. So that's how we managed to, we had no particular expertise in this, but we decided to do it and we did it. I mean, it was a functioning site and it looked damn good in 2009. I can't remember what year we actually went out, but I believe that the genesis of the idea was in 2008. And it worked fine for 2 years. And then what happened?
Dun, dun, dun. Lulu screwed us.
Lulu screwed us.
Yeah, Lulu took down their API, so that functionality no longer worked. The web moved on, and we didn't update the site accordingly.
Yeah.
We didn't utilize the tools of the blog and other social media features.
We were terrible at documenting ourselves.
Oh, and marketing.
And marketing. And, we didn't use the forums. And we just can't bring our members you can't force people to post something on the blog. Believe me, I have tried. It is a recipe for frustration. So, there's some groups of people that are really gung-ho and love posting stuff. We're not it.
Yeah.
So the website functioned fine and it was up for a long time, but the server, and we had to use the server because we were using things like Image Magic and the Lulu API. So we couldn't just, host this on some, Joe's house of hosting or whatever. We had to have something.
At least in 2008, yeah.
Exactly. So we had to get something that we could get access to the workings of the server. And this place was, I don't know.
What we went through was a place originally called Server Beach, which was since bought out by Pure One. Yes. And basically what they just do is give you a dedicated box that has everything installed on it or that you ask for initially, and then they leave it alone. They don't touch it, which is great for some people that want to deal with that. But for somebody like me who needs a little bit of hand-holding, not the best place.
And plus it would just randomly go down occasionally. And what we figured was people were physically walking through the server farm and occasionally they just knocked the power strip out of the wall. And then the site would go down.
Did they admit that? They're like, oh, sorry, I kicked it by accident. Sorry, it's back online.
Yeah, everything's fine. Dan would submit a ticket.
Yeah. And what we're dealing with now is basically 6-year-old hard drives. And as anybody knows, 6 years is a long time for a hard drive.
Yeah, that's pretty long.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of surprised it was working up until a week ago.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And then it's weird because we had already started. We've had these discussions before about updating the website because it was an edge bleeder in 2008, but it's 2014 now. The web has moved on, and we talked about we know us better. We know what we're going to be doing better. We understand the social aspects that we have, which is zero. And we had already talked about redesigning the site. So when it actually died for good on Saturday, that was
a
I don't know.
straw.
Yeah, that was it. It's like I wish I had captured a little bit of Dan, mild-mannered Dan, being very, very unhappy with the people who are hosting the site.
Where as of
Lot-
so were they are they still
lots of huh?
is there anybody left that calls them server what was it beach
Server Beach.
chalet server
Yeah,
beach.
they were bought out by Pier 1, although they still call the dedicated hosting Server Beach,
Or
but it's just owned by Pier 1.
We never
And
called
not the place where you buy the cheap furniture and
Tier
pillows
1
and stuff. No,
imports.
this is no, this is PEER.
Get a nice scented candle. Yeah. So goodbye, you guys. We're coming up with a new platform.
So many better options out now.
We thought about, doing a transitional kind of thing, and then I don't know. It's cleaner this way, Just like it's almost like the site had a massive heart attack and just dropped dead. Wouldn't you want to go like that rather than lingering in the hospital bed with the IV?
Oh,
Sitting in your own cube.
my.
It just fell over, and that was it. So goodbye, BentoComics.com. As Myung says, you will rise again.
You will not be missed.
Better,
You will
stronger.
not. Yeah.
So, I almost think that rather than the, final destination, that was a journey that I really enjoyed playing around with that site because it all of us got together. We all kind of contributed to it, developing the features, adding new things, changing things around. And it was a fun toy to play with. I really enjoyed that and learned a lot. Learned a lot from Sarah. Had a good excuse for her to come over for fondue and pizza. And it was good to get everybody together to work on that. And it's not over. So, as I said, we have started the redesign. And let me just lead you into this gently. This came from an article, which I'll be damned if I can find again, or I would link you to it. But, I'm not making this up. Some guy was waxing eloquent about how people read comics nowadays. All right. And it's true that, as, site design has moved on, the way people consume their entertainment has also moved on. And the way that people read comics has also moved on. What he had done was, this was not a scientific study, but, according to the data that was at hand, the idea that most people read comics in books anymore, you can have a debate about that. All right. And, comic book stores are somewhat problematic, particularly if you're female. You have a tendency to not like to go to these things. They're hard to find, and the whole pull list thing is ridiculous in my point of view. Bookstores are good. Some people have abandoned print media entirely and don't miss it. I'm one of them. I want to read my stuff online. So that being said, how do you read your comics online? Well, increasingly going to somebody's website and consuming their work on the desktop is just not something that people do. Again, you can have a debate about this, but whatever. Most people, I think, are reading their comics on their phone on their way to work. Just a brief sample of how we do it. Yeah, that kind of tends to be the case. And then when you're at home, if you are into gadgets or whatever, you usually have some sort of tablet device, whether it's an iPad or, whatever weird thing Dan has, or the other weird thing that Svet has. You have a tendency to consume your media on this tablet. And comics look great on tablets, depending on what they are. The new iPad with the retinal display, oh my God, comics look fantastic. So what does this suggest? It suggests that your website, which is serving up your comics, need to be something called responsive. All right. So responsive web design is simply a way to present your material dependent upon the device that you're going to consume it on. This is an initiative that is a long time coming. We had to get to CSS3 and HTML5 for this to be working properly, right? Because you have to use the media query tag, et cetera, et cetera. So we knew that we wanted our redesign to be responsive. Yeah. I had a little bit where we might talk about the different kinds of apps out there for reading comics, but we definitely didn't want to, we talked about that. And, this whole proprietary dedicated app for reading comics. Like Marvel's got one, DC's got one, Comixology is one, recently acquired by Amazon. Yeah, some people are not happy about that,
Oh
because they
yeah.
changed it. And it's like, to me, I don't want a proprietary app to read my comics on. I think that you should be able to read your comics in any different way. And I don't, the whole packaging comics, Comixology has done a very good job with their viewer, I feel. It has this something, I think they call it guided technology or something.
Yeah.
And it's a way for you to consume it panel by panel. Have you guys tried this?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had
I haven't.
a lot of comics in there.
I could not, like, I feel like I was not reading the comic. I was just lost in sort of the novelty of the presentation, and it was kind of gimmicky. But and you were getting, a certain, so you had to be in a certain, you were getting into a certain, like, cinematic mood, but it was not something that I thought was very sustainable. Like, I could not read a long form comic like that, and I don't think you could really create a long form comic in that guided view, at least in the format that Comixology was doing it at its highest level. So they made this line of Marvel issues that were like super cinematic quality with fade outs and fade ins and like little animations, kind of like animatics. And it was great at a convention and just sitting there for a really short time clicking on this. But as a long form, I don't know.
Oh, these are these animated comics that was some sort of initiative.
Yeah, somewhat.
I don't.
Animated.
Was that Comixology or somebody
That was
else?
Comixology.
Ah, okay. So the viewer, I have read comics on it, and we're getting a bit of an echo. That's kind of annoying. All right. So the guided technology thing, of course, the problem with the comic is that it's pictures and words. So if you're at the correct viewing distance for the picture, sometimes it's hard to read the words. So the whole point is that, these allow you to consume the comic in a way that makes sense, right? So you can either look at the page and then you can zoom in and, if you want, and then you can put this thing on auto so it will zoom from panel to panel to panel. So you can see clearly the text and, admire the detail of the art. Right. Which is all well and good. But, this comes packaged with DRM. All right. Which I'm not happy about. It's like you can only consume things that you purchase on the, and all of these different proprietary apps have different restrictions on what content you can consume, on your using this app. OK, and I can't agree with the various kind of hoops that you have to jump through to do this. I mean, first off, like the big two, they didn't want the comic book stores to die, I guess. So, they wouldn't release their comics on the same day as the physical comics came out, which is bullshit. I mean, this is absolute bullshit. What? It's like, well, I'm not going to, yeah.
The best thing that they're doing now is that basically if you subscribe to the physical comic, then you get the subscription to the digital comic as well. But you can't just go out and get the digital comic as a subscription.
And there wasn't any discount for the digital edition. So you were paying the same amount of money that you would be paying for a print copy of a comic for your digital copy. Also bullshit. Okay. I mean, now I think they come out on the same day, but whatever. And it ties into
certain titles.
Yeah. So it kind of depends on who we're talking about here. I can't agree with all this stuff. I mean, I feel sorry for the way that comic book, the big two, Marvel and DC, this kind of superhero sort of comic thing, and comic book stores are structured is terrible. This is an antiquated system, and I can't get behind it. The way that these things are released, the way that they're named, it's almost impossible to find something because they all have the same title. They, willy-nilly will change out an author or an artist and think nothing about just doing it. They come out as alternate covers, so you can't tell which issue you've already got. I mean, it's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
It's for collectors and long-term profitability. They're not nurturing creators as well as, say, your independent comic scenes or manga from Japan. Where it's basically a creator has an idea, they create 3 books, and they're done. Here they have to have the important thing is the content than the artist. We want to have more Superman comics. We need to have more Batman. So
Or
let's
it's not
keep making stuff.
not even the content, like the property, because you can have many
Yeah.
different artists doing the same character, but it's like the property, the character that's the property that they're like honing and nurturing. So it's not even, a particular incarnation of the character.
Yeah, it's just a mess. And we should do a separate podcast just about this because I have a lot of stuff to say about this. I mean, like many people, I consumed superhero comics when I was a kid, and I dropped out of them because they're misogynistic and stupid.
Again, this is opinion shared by D. Not expressly everybody in the group, but like to someone, I agree.
Yeah, misogynistic and stupid. So I was like, comics suck. But back in the Stone Age when I was consuming this material, manga had yet to fetch up on these shores, and certainly translated manga. Everybody had their bootleg copy of Akira with the bad fan translation. Maybe you'd seen a copy of Dragon Ball Z, but the whole manga thing had not happened yet. So when, like many people, when I discovered manga, I was like, this is comics. Oh my God. And I got really into it. It was just completely different. And then also this is an arc that's, shared by a lot of people as well, particularly, women coming back into the whole superhero comics kind of thing. The Avengers movie kind of changed everything. I'm like, whoa, this is good. I like this. This is good. Let me just go see if I can find some comics that, parallel this. I mean, the story's good. I like the characters. Maybe I should learn more. And, so, I'm fortunate that I have a really big bookstore here that's excellent. Kinokuniya is, of course, a great place to go get your comics. So I took myself down to the physical location of Takashimaya Mall and, went into the Kino and tried to find comics that I liked that were set in the same sort of world. And it was impossible. Just because of the way that they release these things, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, and don't send me mail because I know that Marvel has released an anthology that has to do with Fury's Big Week and all this kind of stuff. Which I bought and I kind of like, but problematic is what I'm saying. So
yeah.
Anyway, we should have a separate podcast about that. But what we're talking about now is responsive web design and how you consume your comics. So let me just drag myself because I have issues, okay? I just have issues about this as someone who's dipped their toe back into the superhero thing. Increasingly, when you talk about comics, you're not even talking about superhero stuff, though. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Great stuff that's being output. God, I just see whole little mini comics on Tumblr that are fantastic. I mean, just really good, independent stuff, people I'd never seen before. I follow them on Tumblr. I go to their sites. I read their stuff. And I want to read their comics. If they have a digital download, I want to put that on my tablet. I don't want to fire up a proprietary app with a DRM that requires me syncing across 4 different devices and you have to pay for. I would like to have that on hand to read as the author intended. So I guess that's my point about proprietary apps. I just feel like I could go on and on.
Yes, you could.
So here's the thing. Please stop me. Here's the thing. Why should you treat a page of comics any differently than you would treat, any image anywhere? Right. And so responsive web design does exactly this. It resizes the images and the content of the page to fit your particular device. Right. And it doesn't have panel by panel reading or whatever. But, we've tested this stuff and pages of our comics look just fine on Myung's phone. Your Android. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
My Samsung.
Samsung. So you're
Galaxy. Sorry, Samsung Galaxy.
It looks good on my iPad, looks good on my iPhone. I'm definitely in the Mac camp. And it seems to be working for us. So, whatever. Everybody keep your apps. We're just going to do responsive web design and have it be as extensible as possible. So that being said, oh man, I've done so much research on this. I was going to show it to you, but it would be boring to everybody but me, so I won't. But we're using something, and you may have run across this, first off, there are a lot of, if you're interested in doing this for your own site or redesigning your own site or getting into this technology, there are a lot of templates out there that are available for your use. There are none that are specifically dedicated to comics as far as I can see, but there should be. Ours is going to be like that. But Dan, being the creature that he is, rejects this. He does not want a template. He does not want a hosting platform. What he's going to do is build this thing from scratch in Bootstrap. Sarah, have you heard of this thing called Bootstrap?
Only a little, but not so much.
Something that Myung is, they use it at your work, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bootstrap was originally designed as basically just a programmer's theme, so that the people who program can create websites that actually look halfway decent. But as of version 2, they added in responsiveness, and the current version 3, it is built on the basis of responsive design. So they have all these nice little classes in place that you could put into your divs and what have you to make things just sort of magically work for everybody's different consumption device. It's very, very easy to use.
So
and also they have the images and stuff all built into it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you have it's open source again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tell us just briefly how it works. Do you download this and install it, or?
Well, basically, you can. They recommend that you download it, or you can link to it, hosted on their site. You're basically hooking up to 1 or 2 different JavaScript libraries, as well as a CSS or 2. I don't remember how many of each. But basically, it's a collection of programming logic in the form of the JavaScript and the CSS accordingly, so that you can label all of your elements on your web page accordingly, so that it knows how to react or how to translate in, like for the buttons or for boxes around your content. You know, they have all these classes in place that you can just attach to your bits and niblets on your page, and it just sort of happens, which is nice.
Niblets are good.
I'm trying to keep it relatively simple so that I'm not going into
in layman's
boring
terms.
HTML.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think it's Dan's going the hard route by doing it himself, but that's kind of like a Dan thing, and that's how we did the first bit there.
Doing something that's mine, that I know how it works and why it works, as opposed to trying to use something that somebody else created and then having to reverse engineer it and then make it into ours. It's just so much simpler for me to just create it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the programming aspects of this, I would you say it's, I mean, is my understanding from reading is that it's primarily CSS3 and HTML5 that makes this go. A little bit of jQuery, right?
Yes.
Or JavaScript. So it's not like you're having to, the previous BentoComics site was programmed in PHP. Right, or marked up in PHP, however.
Yeah, and this one still has a PHP backbone, but a lot of the delivery onto the page is utilizing JavaScript.
Yeah, that was fun when we all had to stop in 2008 and learn some PHP. Sarah, you remember that? It was a good time.
Yeah, it came in handy.
Yeah, well documented online.
Oh yeah. I still program daily in PHP. Although I'm trying to start learning Ruby and Rails.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The next upcoming language.
Yeah.
Sure.
So is Bootstrap using a database on the back end? Yeah? No?
It's some JavaScript files, I feel, right? Basically.
Yeah. There's no database required.
Okay.
In the traditional MySQL sort of database sense.
Yeah, this is like, oh man, I wish I knew more about this. So some people at work were talking about it the other day about how, databases are now too slow.
Yeah.
So sites like Amazon don't use database technology anymore. They have this, man, I wish I knew it was Ruby on Rails based. Yeah, at any rate, it's not my field, so I can't really tell you. But
there's there's multiple database options depending on what your goal is. MySQL still is the standard, but they have things like MongoDB and SQLite or Lite SQL. I don't remember which. All these different options depending on how big your database is, how you're going to access the information, and how you're going to present it.
Yeah. So I think the idea was that, Amazon is putting together so many different widgets and such and speed is a necessity that it didn't even use a database anymore. It's using this kind of relational technology that I would like to know more about.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this is the wave of the future. So responsive design, it's very cool. It's very interesting, and I think it's the way that everything is going to end up going. It's not some flash in the pan anymore. It's the way things are going to happen. So our site is going to be coded up so that it's responsive. So you'll be able to see it on your phone and your tablet and your desktop and anything else you can find. And you won't have
Once
to
I finish programming it.
Yeah, once it actually gets made. But again, I mean, just back when, just like the first iteration of BentoComics.com, it's like we're doing a lot of stuff. We don't know how to do it, but, we're going to figure it out, and it'll be awesome. The hosting is going to be in the cloud.
It gives me a reason to learn new things.
It's just what we like, So anyway, we've had I haven't showed you anything about this. I don't know whether people are particularly interested in the nitty gritty of responsive design, et cetera. We might try another podcast at some point when we actually start trying to do the evolving the look and feel for this thing. So now
I have my viewer test up on my computer here. If you want to take a look at it.
Yeah, let's do that. Take a brief look at the guts. So the way this is traditionally broken down is Sarah. Mm-hmm. Sarah, now that you're here, are you okay? What? You could help Dan with this, right?
Maybe. I'm freelancing at the moment, and the plate's a little full, but I'm happy to answer questions.
You want to get in on version 2, right?
Perhaps. Maybe.
So, do you see my screen yet?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. So this is currently the desktop view where you can basically just page through using next or previous. But the cool thing is that this is a functionality in Firefox that you can go Tools, Developer, Responsive Design View. So this is how a iPhone, for instance, would view it. You have iPad, you can turn it sideways. And the cool thing is that, you can see how it sort of grows with the area of the page. And only will show one up if it's a certain size. Mm-hmm. So, pretty darn cool, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So that's
I'm looking forward to this being a real thing.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah,
great. And Dan prototyped this on this comic, which excellently did not have any actual text, so we weren't. Nice one, Dan. You picked the one.
I picked the first one that was in my folder, and this happened to be it.
Well, we did test a page of Simon Sue's, I believe, which had some text on it, and it seems to be fine.
That was on the old Bento server.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is currently on the what eventually will be the location of the new Bento site.
Oh, okay. You've already got that space. Very cool.
Yeah. Well, we're moving into the future. We're hosting it on a cloud.
The cloud.
Oh, the
yes,
cloud.
we're using a nice cloud hosting service.
Moving on up.
Which is pretty spiffy.
Yeah.
OpenShift. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think Dan uses this for work. So let me just take the screen here and see if I can.
Yes, go for it.
Do that. Let me know if you guys get this. So just as a little visual aid, this is what we're talking about. Okay. So without going into too many details of this, responsive design is going to have different breakpoints, which allows the content to deform depending on the device that you're viewing it at. So can you guys see this on the screen?
Yeah, zoom in a
Yes.
bit if you can.
Zoom in.
If you can.
This is Scrivener, so...
How do you zoom in?
Oh man, I'm screwing up.
Is that a zoomy doodad down at the bottom there?
This bullseye? Yeah, okay.
No, the other side.
Boom! Nice one, Dan.
Hey!
Hey, well, let me talk about how awesome Scrivener is. Okay, last time we talked about Scrivener, right? I'm loving Scrivener. So here's this redesign thing that I set up because, again, I'm collecting like a zillion different materials, yes, for this project. And instead of storing them in stupid folders that are lost between, various different devices, scattered hither and yon between work and Dropbox and home and my tablet and now I'm trying to organize them in Scrivener, which has an excellent way to synchronize with Dropbox. You guys, if you haven't started using Scrivener, you should get it because it is awesome. So the research that I was doing the other day, I organized this in Scrivener. And then when we start doing the layouts, I've already done a wireframe or two. They'll end up in here and I'll have one document. So at any rate, this is just a little visual to give you an idea of how this works. Okay, so looking good on your iPhone, that's a page of comics, right? And then it has a horizontal view, usually, if you want to, flip it to the side. And then various tablets, and then, 1024 plus, right? Mm-hmm. All your favorite devices. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically how
Bootstrap.
Bootstrap, thank you. it's late over here on the East Coast. That's basically how Bootstrap divvies things up. Basically, large, medium, small, and extra small.
Yeah. So I'm working with templates at work that have, up to 16 breakpoints.
Oof.
I think that's kind of insane, right?
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
You can go nuts with this because it's like, I don't care what somebody with an off-the-shelf, the crazy-ass phone happens to turn it sideways or perhaps diagonally. If they can't see my content, well, you should just stop doing that. 16 breakpoints is crazy. But here's the thing, good web design, it's sort of a design philosophy, right? You package your stuff so that it's extensible, so that everybody can consume it in sort of an optimal way. But it's a series of compromises, yeah? So you have to make sure that you're not excluding people. So, for example, there are screen readers that have to do with people that are visually impaired or some other, the people have made a big deal about semantic markup, right? Which is not putting proprietary, HTML, et cetera, et cetera. But having this stuff done in a way that makes sense and will degrade properly is what, HTML has been heading to from the beginning. So very exciting to be actually participating in this kind of thing. We'll have to come back at some other time and talk about look and feel. So you see that I've got like design trends and fonts that are looking good right now and all this kind of stuff. But basically, this is something that I wanted to show you. This is the 960 grid, you guys. And if all of these things have, a sort of commonality, it's because almost all of this stuff you're going to see nowadays. Anytime you go buy an app, you find yourself on a landing page. Yeah. If you click on that link, you've gone to a landing page that these people have created to talk about their app. All these things are designed on the 960 grid. So get used to it.
Yeah, at least Bootstrap at least simplifies it to a 12 grid system.
Oh, well, so, Dan.
Yeah, you have in any particular container, you could have up to 12 boxes essentially.
Well, this is
depending on how big you want your box to be, it's spanning how many columns you want it to be. That's how you set it up.
Yeah. So,
but of course, you could also do, if you wanted to make it more complex, you could do containers within containers. So you could have a box that's only 3 spaces wide, containing a container that has another 12 grid in it.
Yeah.
So
if you were crazy,
kind of funky. Yeah.
If you were crazy.
I don't recommend that if you can avoid it.
Yeah, no, it's not good. But this grid, I mean, it seems complex, but after a while, you get used to thinking about it. I mean, if you know that you want your menu, which is up here, to go over here, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this helps you keep things organized. So, but this is a sort of a design thing, and this is kind of how it breaks down. Myung advises on both sides. Dan also has his toe in both sides. We all know various things about programming and design, but somehow it always ends up, I usually have to skin these things. So I'm taking the bulk of the research on this, which is fine because it helps me at work as well. Yeah, that's how I justify using my lunch hour and maybe a little bit more too.
What, you actually do work at lunch?
I work on this. I make Scrivener projects because I'm a geek. All right. Well, I'm going to call that a summed up kind of thing. Myung, if you could take the screen back, that would be great.
Okay.
It wasn't a comprehensive sort of thing about, how you redesign your website. But I mean, websites are important for artists. It helps people to have a place to consume your content. And, I'm glad that we're doing version 2 of BentoComics.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty cool. When we get a little bit further along, we'll revisit this. And when I ask Dan what the design parameters are, he'll be a little bit more articulate. Yes?
Yeah.
You keep using those words, design parameters, and it's like that never comes up at work.
What do you guys call it?
Specs.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh.
You call it, you just
Specs?
user specifications, right? Like you need a website that will do X, Y, Z within these parameters, right? Like you need to be able to use
so we
comics that, right?
You don't do use cases? Come on.
we call use cases or a scope at work. So it's a scope of work.
I've heard specs and scope.
Yeah, they're all the
See,
same.
we don't think in terms of design at work, which we're trying to get out of that because design is important. But previously, before I joined on, they had my boss and his predecessors who were all programmers first and foremost. Design was really by the people who were doing pre-press, getting things ready to be printed. They didn't dabble in website designs or anything like that. Any kind of design was farmed out to other people, so they didn't care. So they just call it scopes, scope of work. This is the functionality that we need. Go for it. We don't care how it looks.
I've found that there is some sort of prejudice against the word design as well. So people are automatically, have somehow design is not serious. Design is the color of something. You get into this with clients, right? So they're not willing to pay for good design. This is something that should not be happening. Also, engineers don't want to be associated with the word design. So,
what? Engineers design all the time.
I know.
Yeah, you design a database, you design your code structure, you design how your classes are set up.
I don't know why this is a bad word. Believe me, if I had to have the conversation about the difference between web design and graphic design with one more person, I'll just save myself some time and kill them first.
That's so, you should just make a recording of yourself saying it on the phone and then pull out your phone and play the video.
I think that's an excellent use for that technology. Well done, Sarah. Problem solver.
Yep. So anyway,
we're gonna have to revisit this, but we're gonna wind up today with a special treat for Sarah.
Oh God.
The special treat for Sarah.
What?
Now, do you want me to explain this, Myung, or will you do it
No.
while you're getting the files?
You can explain it while I get the files because I can't do both at the same time.
Okay.
What?
Once upon a time, Sarah
kind of already knows.
Sarah is kind of our mascot, yeah? Because Sarah is, if you think about it this way, Sarah is little and cute and also an excellent programmer. So once upon a time, Myung needed a geeky character in her comic, right? She wanted to add this character whose name is
Sarah. Did not even try to disguise.
Whose name is Sarah in her comic. So she named the character Sarah, and Sarah looks like Sarah. So where was the obfuscation in there?
No,
And
it was total
she's
like out very overt
yeah.
homage to Sarah.
So she distilled the personality of the Sarah we know into the Sarah that appears in Simon Says. So and you will be bringing up some files in a moment that show us the Sarah.
Here we go. Dun,
So
dun, dun. I want to get her best angle.
Sarah, have you seen Sarah?
I've seen the cosplay people at
Oh!
the anime conference who dressed up as Sarah, and that was like, my world was blown. It was like, can this even be reality? That like someone made a comic about me and then someone dressed up as me? That's so weird.
Yeah. Meanwhile, did Myung check with Sarah about, making Sarah? No, there was no check.
No,
Because
no, she
Why?
did not. And then you know what else she like did with my character? Wait, with the spoil things. Anyway, she did something very bad to my character, and I was
Exactly.
so mad at her.
Coming up.
We'll get to that.
So here's the thing:
Here's-
we're artists, and
yeah.
and we, YOLO. We do what we want. All right.
Oh,
So if we
my
want to make
goodness.
a character out of somebody that we know, that's too bad.
That's our kind of like only. So a lot of artists were bullied and were, kind of browbeaten when they were maybe in high school because they weren't the most confrontational, extroverted people. So their art is a form of weapon.
Bullying?
Not bullying, weapon, equalizer.
Back.
I mean, that wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Yeah, so like you got crap from people, and then
No,
now
no,
you
no,
just
no, no. I'm
really
saying
hate-
in general,
I
especially
feel like that may be a
comic
Myung thing
artists,
with
especially
weaponized
comic
comics.
artists. No. If I were bullied in high school, I was like the person who is raring to go for physical fight, fist fight. So art was like the secondary thing.
Yeah. So you know how that works. So Sarah, here's Sarah. Okay. And this kind of looks like Sarah. Yeah.
Well, I definitely wanted the
so the
glasses
cosplayer-
slipping down,
Yeah.
glass or putting her glasses up.
So, and as I say, Sarah is pure condensed Sarah. So take the personality of Sarah and throw out all the stuff that you don't care about. And then what remains is the distilled Sarah, which was put into this character, Sarah, in Simon Says, right? And the cosplayers were great. I mean, I thought they were fantastic. So they sent this picture of, as you say, Sarah. And she has purple hair. So that's different.
Have purple hair.
Actual. So,
And I noticed she has an ergonomic keyboard too.
Oh yeah.
So fictional Sarah has better hair and better gear than you do, Sarah. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. Maybe I'm jealous.
So
I wish it was fictional Sarah.
when we get together for sketch jams, not the ones that we record, but other ones, yes. So, Myung shows us her monumental thumbnails, which we went over a little bit. So Tacto and I were around one day, and Myung was showing us her thumbnails, which involved the upcoming fate of Sarah. And we were going over these thumbnails, and Tacto just had a meltdown. She felt that this was unjust to Sarah.
It was unjust.
So let us just show us the sequence
Oh my goodness.
of the ultimate fate of Sarah. And this is what happens
Should I?
when you know this.
So should I get into like a backstory, or should I just go into?
Well,
Yeah, give us a little overview of what Sarah was doing in your comic.
Oh, so Sarah is kind of like the geeks in X-Files who do these cameo appearances, but they're super handy and they serve a purpose of like providing the solution to the problem in a very clever way. So that was Sarah's purpose, and she kind of overstepped her bounds by being too helpful and too useful. And I needed sort of a character who was well liked, and she was very well received because a lot of people could identify with her quirkiness. And
Yes.
so, but I needed some sacrifice in order to kind of take the comic on a darker turn, and I didn't want just like random throwaway characters that, sometimes television shows do, where they try to draw you in by saying somebody will die in tonight's episode, and then it's some extra that nobody cared about anyway, so you feel like you were cheated.
Not earned.
Yeah, and it didn't make an impact on the story. So I wanted a character who was very important, but the story could still go on, yet her sacrifice would be felt and reverberate throughout the rest of the chapters.
Yeah. So
So
consequently,
So
Sarah,
now you know
Sarah
what
was
everyone.
chosen.
Sarah must die.
It's terrible.
Sarah must
No,
die.
I was so mad at her.
I-
I was like, why? Why'd you kill me? It's
I
terrible.
Sarah, and I was so proud. I thought that she would be like kind of touched and thought that I was honoring her because
By
I
killing
made
her.
her into this sort of I martyred Sarah, and then she was that's terrible. I hate you.
And you know, Sarah, her death was fairly not great.
What? Why?
There's Sarah.
It was kind of horrible.
No. Stop.
No, what's happening to her?
Yeah.
Ah.
So, Sarah.
All right. So I will
Oh, we
just
should
run
get
through
Dan to do the
this
voices
really
for your
quick.
comics.
No.
Oh, it's like the
Everyone with
beat
a beat.
coming after me.
Yeah, so like you are a computer science student, super brilliant, but you because of your brilliance, you've tapped into this secret file that nobody else is able to crack, and it's led to your downfall.
Yes.
You've unlocked this secret file, which happens to be a virus, and so there is this kind of race to save you by the other characters while you're trying to make your way out of the IT building.
Yeah.
And then you get sort of whisked away into this alternate reality. Well, it's not really an alternate reality. It's kind of this mind-altering sort of gas state, mental state. So you think that you are trapped in this old creepy hospital.
Yeah. Which is just like, what was that game? Silent Hill?
Like Silent Hill. So that's what
Ah. Oh.
but notice, and then there's these monsters that are populating the operating rooms, and you're totally freaked out. So everyone feels sorry for Sarah because she's being tormented by these images, and these are the heroes that are going to come rescue you.
And then the bastard, author like clicks away, and then we have to...
So we'll get back. So Sarah, who is completely right now, you think she's mentally broken because she's huddled in a little corner, and she's trying to like wish all of these images away. And then this is the main villain who's perpetrating all of these like terrible acts, and come to do even more.
So, just to give you a little backstory, if you've been following along with the I don't know how many years of Simon Says, you know that this guy is the big bad. Okay, so he's not just like a guy with a goatee. He is the big bad, and you were just absolutely terrified for Sarah at this moment because this guy is bad. He's like Mr. Bad.
So you think that Sarah is like in big trouble, and that
big trouble,
going to get crushed and defeated and eaten. And he comes even with his minions, which are these like evil Dobermans, kind of like Resident Evil type.
These bad dogs.
And this is Sarah just completely broken, and she's just trying.
That's so sad.
I can't imagine what this is like if this is actually you, because it kind of looks like you. All right, keep going.
The villain shows her some more tormented images, and he even challenges her intellect. So she's trying to make a comeback by saying that she's helping the heroes, and she's the one who's been providing them all this information and helping them win the case. But then the evil villain informs her that she was being played this whole time, and that everyone's going to die a horrible death anyway, except but
just
then,
when you think it couldn't be worse.
No. But then so he informs her of that, and then he's laughing and torturing you and belittling you even more. But then comes the moment of truth where you have to focus, and you sort of gather up your courage again, and start the wheels start turning, and you realize that you have the ace in the hole. Is that the right term? Right, you have an ace in the hole.
Sarah rallies.
So Sarah rallies, and she realizes that she has admin access to the server all along, and that she, in the end, controls like this particular random number generator, which is key in solving this problem.
Yeah.
But she says that she will sacrifice herself so that the main hero can finish his work.
Yeah.
And the villain is trying to sort of bribe her into letting the hero die and she can go free. But she's like, I don't want any of that. So your evil plans are thwarted, and that she's ready to set the consequences and sacrifice herself. And originally, that was it. You were just gonna get one page of action. But I showed it to D and Tacto was like, I can't believe that you shortchanged.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Here's the deal that she was offered, right? She could, she could save herself. I guess that was the thing.
Yeah.
And go free. But she chose not to do that. She chose this horrible sort of essentially purgatory because she was sacrificing herself to close this threat down and save her friends, right? And Myung needed the sacrifice of this character who ended up, she became a hero at the end, right? Even though she was not equipped to be the hero, but she became the hero.
She was only supposed to be a bystander and not even get involved. And I kind of like set up this sort of tragic flaw where she's very eager to participate, and she sort of is ignoring the dangers and the hazards. And the main character, Simon, kind of falls into the trap of bringing her more and more into the case and giving her more responsibility. And you're like super eager to accept it, because I wanted to make it seem like every character is involved, has a hand in their own fate, and it wasn't just bad luck or.
So the sacrifice had to be meaningful. Yeah.
Yes.
So it was like codependency, kind of.
No, not like that. Well, okay. Simon was kind of an enabler, but you were like the dwarves, okay, and Lord of the Rings. They delved too deep, Sarah.
Yeah.
You awakened the Balrog.
You burned too bright.
Yeah, too bright.
I see.
So anyway, I showed this to Tacto, and she told me that I need to go back and give you some more screen time, the screen time that you deserved. So I had to go back to my thumbnails and draw 3 extra pages of Sarah so that you get the correct type of pacing and attention. So these next few pages are because Tacto was just so appalled and
outraged
hatchet
at the treatment of Sarah, who is going to suffer for eternity in purgatory. It's like, that is not the reward of the hero. So
so I ended so I dragged it out a little bit to build up the tension, and this is the moment, kind of like slow motion, where you've overrode the sequence, you've taken over the server, your job is done, the app is playing, and you let the fall from your hands
dramatically.
You are engulfed in flames. Like, not in an ugly death, but a kind of beautiful death.
Except for the burning part.
Yeah. But at the end, then this is where the main character finds your fate.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm dead. Oh, it's so sad.
That was also something that Tacto and I were on about. Is she comic book dead, or is she dead?
What does that mean?
Well, comic book dead means kind of alive.
You'll come back in 50 issues, and you'll be a villain and
who knows?
hiding behind a mask.
Yeah. Thrown into the Lazarus pits, and you'll rise.
A clone. But again, because the author of Simon Says is an utter bastard, we were informed that you are actually dead. So.
Whoa. But you never know. Never say.
Never say never.
Yeah, I guess. Well, sometimes you make appearances like kind of like Yoda, where you're still dead.
My shade comes back.
Yeah,
like
or finds them.
Yeah. All right. Oh, no, maybe not exactly like that, because you are not sort of. It is not an an actual entity. You are somebody's memory in somebody's
The memory.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
And that's
And
it.
yeah, so this had a lot of emotional impact, and I'll tell you why. Because the characters in Simon Says they're complex characters. Yeah, they're not one note characters. So they're complex people, and they have a mixture of good and bad, which sometimes makes it difficult to empathize with these characters because they do bad things. But they have motivations for doing this. They also do good things. So the only purely good character in the entire 5-year run or whatever of Simon Says was Sarah. Sarah she didn't have darkness to her. The only flaw that she had, her character, her fatal character flaw was that she wanted to know too
inquisitiveness.
much. Yeah,
That-
right. And that led to her downfall. But that's not a bad characteristic, so. And so when she got killed, that had a lot of an emotional impact.
Tacto
Tacto was very invested
Yeah.
in Sarah.
So her problem was that, in sometimes life gives you lemons and there's nothing you can do about it. And so Tacto doesn't like any story where the character does good things and then gets damned for it. So, what's that saying? Oh, no good deed goes unpunished.
He's unpunished, yeah.
Yeah. So that Tacto is like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
So we had to change it. So Sarah does not languish in purgatory forever for a good deed. She is released and moves on. So
Not yet, though. Not yet, though.
But she will. She will. Yeah. Or Tacto will have words with Myung again. So I was surprised at how, it's like we've been reading your thumbnails for how many years now? So we kind of know these characters. In some ways, it's funny because, Sarah, the actual Sarah, the physical Sarah, we know you and, but we're far away from you right now. So you move in and out of our lives and we always love it when you show up. But it's funny to see you again here as a comic because that same level of familiarity, it's like now it's been so long since I've seen you that I
This is what you remember.
I kind of see you as purple hair. Is this Sarah? So when we get together in New York, if we do, then we're going to it's going to be some sort of visual shock. I'll be like, Sarah, you're alive,
and I don't have purple hair. But I will have my glasses.
I'm so glad you're not dead.
I still think I shouldn't have died. Is what I think.
Well, you would think that. I know. And every time we brought this up, furthermore, Myung was always like, but it was a noble death. It was
That's what she said to me.
She sacrificed herself for her friends. She was a hero. So that's supposed to make you feel better.
Yes, I suppose.
I don't. If somebody told that to me, like I saved a whole campus or a whole school in my comic book death, I would be like, that's pretty righteous.
Oh, man.
And you also, not only that, but fictional Sarah moves the plot forward. So because it's essentially, what would you call this? I mean, it on the trajectory, it's like the turning point of the whole story, right?
Yeah.
Because it throws the main characters into. Keep clicking forward your pages, they're so pretty. It throws the main characters into this crisis essentially because nobody wanted you to die and they have to assume some sort of responsibility for that. So I mean, it was critically important to the plot.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this treat. I actually had not seen this. I didn't even know what I looked like. I only knew what the cosplay girl looked like.
Look, here's you pre-fire.
Pre-dead.
Yeah,
Very pretty looking.
Yeah, so you like boba tea, and
I do like bubble tea.
and you're wearing a kind of nerd geek humor T-shirt, and you like sweater jacket.
Oh, I used that mouse at my last job, or one of my.
Like the trackball mouse.
Yeah, I had to use that when I worked for the Air Force.
Yes.
That's so funny. Oh wow.
And your feet
well.
can't touch the floor.
Yeah, because you're little. You have the sort of programmer's posture.
Oh my goodness.
These were happier days
They
when
were.
you were still alive.
Remember those days? Remember when Sarah
Those
wore the
days.
vest?
Yeah, before she got killed horribly. And she was like comforting, Isaac, who definitely needed some
She
comfort.
was the
So,
peak of stability and sympathy and stuff.
yeah. So that's, again, the author being a complete bastard and making us love Sarah before she killed her hideous.
Died. Yeah. That's like in Harry Potter and what that guy that died, right? I forgot. Sirius.
Dumbledore?
Oh, he died too, but there's another guy that died. That was
was
sad.
like, oh my god.
Everybody died.
Yeah.
That's true.
I remember when Dumbledore died, Dee, who had not read the Harry Potter books, was
No.
like, some guy, some character, I don't know, like Dumbledore died, and like some other dude, I guess, he who must not be named, he must not be important because he doesn't have a name or something.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Okay.
So naive.
I miss Harry Potter. I was busy. I can't believe you haven't seen these pages.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think I own. Do I own a comic book? I might. Is that terrible?
Yeah, that's terrible, Sarah.
Is that like
Once again,
travesty?
Sarah has better things to do than to do comic-y type things.
Oh,
I like comics. I do. And I like my comic friends, everybody. I will say these people are awesome, but I don't have them.
Do you
I would
still feel
read
that
them.
Myung is awesome after she killed you?
Well, she
It was
bought me
noble
really
death.
good dumplings yesterday,
Oh,
and
okay.
so for dinner.
She should buy you some bubble tea.
Yeah. And a trackball mouse, and maybe that'll make.
Well, it's funny because, as I say, seeing the finished pages, I don't think I've actually seen the finished tone pages of these. I saw the thumbnails, and I saw like the pencils and the inks. So various stages. It's good to see them all finally done. And these are part of which book is this?
My published or my print version or the Spanish print version?
So have you already printed these out yet, or?
I just got the test proof back from the Thai publisher.
Okay.
So it is part of
is
the second omnibus.
second omnibus, this is not the Spanish publisher. This is your own self-published work.
Yes.
So
this is not released in Spain.
Has it been released online?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
Sarah just died like last week.
Okay.
Oh, what did people say? Anything?
It was kind of quiet, although leading up to your death, people were like, "Oh no," because it was kind of like, does the sister die or does Sarah die? And they were like, "I don't want anyone to die, but I hope it's the sister." But then they are like, "Damn it, I hate when I'm wrong."
This is what I'm talking about, because June is a very complicated character. She's both good and bad, and so the person who you had the least trouble empathizing with was the Sarah character.
Yeah, a lot of people thought you were hot, actually.
Wow.
Hey, maybe you got fans. So we'll include a link so you can read the tragic death of Sarah if you so desire. It's up on Ink Blazers and then distributed sort of at a couple of different sites. We'll put the link there for you.
All right, thanks.
Sorry, Sarah.
So when I heard that Myung was going to be in New York and you were going to be visiting her, I was like, wait, this would be great.
Yeah, you mean this podcast thing?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, okay. I did not know this, but sure. It was fun being on the podcast. It's fun. It's fun. It's cool that you guys are doing this. Because I feel like you guys probably have learned a lot over these last, 5 years or so. And I'm sure people will want to know what you learned. So
maybe some people.
Yes. No, I mean, you guys are a bunch of creators. Like, creating comics, but also like, yeah, like sort of pushing sort of the bounds of technology to help your readers get it better, and I don't know, doing it in a way that's not proprietary. I think, I don't know, I'm sure people want to know. So
We're all about the open source.
yeah,
Well, I'm
which is
glad you were
great.
able to join us today, and I'm sorry you're dead, but you live on
Young's
our hearts.
fault. Young.
It was a noble death, a
And
soldier's death.
you can thank Tacto. Next time you see Tacto, you can buy her a beer because she ensured that you would have a happy afterlife.
Yay.
Yeah, I had not thought about that. You were like out of sight and out of mind.
Yeah.
But
But
Tacto was like, wait a minute, that must
Yeah.
mean that Sarah's like just sitting there in purgatory. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess.
I had honestly not thought about it. So
I
she
feel
changed.
Leon doesn't care.
abandoned. Yeah. Kicked to the side.
No, she promoted you, so you now moved on to the afterlife of your choice. So well done.
Released. You were released from purgatory.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right. Well, this has been great. I'm sorry about my digressions into my ranting, but there you go. Maybe we should have led with this because it's always good to see the interesting art. Dan, thanks for the overview of Bootstrap, and we will be coming back with at a later podcast with talking about our progress on working up this website, because I think it's fun, and maybe next time it'll be a few more visuals, so you'd be a little bit more interesting than just us talking. Right? But it's quite an interesting process. Yeah. And I'd just like to say thanks, everybody. It was fun, as usual. And we'll wrap it up unless you've got something else.
No, I'm pretty done.
Yeah, this is our first real ending because usually we just turn off the recording software. But this time we're actually saying goodbye. So
let's
Till
ask them
next time.
to like us or subscribe to our stuff,
Oh, that's always
and
good.
visit
please.
our website. Well, our website's down.
oh, Dan,
But
thank you.
How about our Tumblr? What's our Tumblr address?
Oh, and here's another rant, which we don't have time for, so I won't even. But Tumblr has been, misbehaving like, whoa. I just, Yahoo. Is there a reason that Yahoo rhymes with boo? Since their acquisition of Tumblr has been very intermittent. But whatever, we still have a page on Tumblr, which posts our beautiful work in progress, right? So as we work towards our anthology, this year's 2014 anthology. And we'll see you again soon.